Come on!
Sir, do you have any idea how fast you were going?
Actually, officer, I don't know because the speedometer tops out at 160.
Up until recently, I'd never owned any RGB studio lights before, but about a year and a few months ago, that has changed because I decided to invest in these two lights that you see besides me. Now before that, you notice some videos where I might have some RGB lights here and there, but those are from lights that I had around the house, such as the Hue, or some of these cheaper bulbs where in these smaller lamps, it'll provide some colors, but it's pretty difficult to shoot with these because they're not very bright. And at times, depending on the bulb, they can flicker on camera, so that's not good. But now that we've upgraded to these larger studio lights, I'm going to dive deeper into how they work, how easy they work, are they reliable, things like that, and then give them a rating at the end of the video. So stay tuned. We're going to dive deep into these RGB lights that you see besides me up next. These are the Neewer RGB660 lights from Amazon, and the very first video that I shot these on was my 2013 Acura TL 10 years of ownership video, and since then I've used them in numerous YouTube videos that I've posted. Let's take a look at some examples. In this first example, I kept it simple. I just had one blue light shining on the background. For the second shot, I was going for the orange and teal look, using the orange lights off the stand, laying it on the top shelf of the glass to highlight the cameras. And then for this last shot, I did change it up a little bit where I have the purple light as being the main color in the background. And then for the fill light that's off to the right, I did kind of fill in the shadows with a little bit of blue. Now that you've seen my past work with these lights, without further ado, let's take a look at the pros and cons of the RGB660s. Starting with the pros, first off, there's no flickering. Here's a test with shutter priority at ISO 800. So if you're shooting at 120 frames per second for slow motion, for example, you can use these lights and not have it flicker. If you want consistency in general, or you have multiple lights, you can use the exact settings because the numbers are displayed on the control panel. Next up, let's talk about the physical controls behind the lights. It's not as intuitive as a smartphone's touchscreen, but it's pretty easy once you learn. From a control standpoint, you can configure the hue with the left knob. As you rotate, you can see the color change. If you click on the button and hold, it will quickly cycle through the colors. The right knob adjusts the brightness from 0 to 100%. If you click in the left knob and release quickly, you can switch between the hue and saturation mode as indicated by the H and S arrows on the screen. I was in the hue mode before, and I will switch to saturation. You can adjust the saturation levels from 0 to 100%, which is represented by A0. The mode button allows you to switch between the color, effect, and white light modes. In the white light mode, you can control the color temperature in kelvins from 3200 to 5600K with the left knob and the brightness with the right knob. In this mode,
Holding down the left knob does not do anything. The color temperature settings can only be changed by rotating the knob. And then finally, for the special effects, aka the FX mode, 99% of the time I don't use this, but I'll cover this separately later on in this video along with the app that links your phone to the lights via Bluetooth. As I demonstrated before, I feel the RGB lights really adds a nice touch to my YouTube videos compared to just using 5000K white lighting. They can make your video pop when used properly. For power, these offer the flexibility of allowing you to plug into the wall or by using Sony MPF batteries. By not having a built-in battery like some cheaper lights out there, this allows you to swap batteries if your battery is dead, or if your battery has malfunction, you can do the same easily. Unlike incandescent lights, these do not get hot, they get warm at most. Back in college, I remember working in the video studio and they told me if I ever had to swap the tungsten lighting bulb, never ever to do it with my bare hands because the fingerprints that gets left behind will leave a layer of oil that will quickly boil when you turn on the lights, causing the bulbs to potentially shatter. But you got none of that here. This particular unit came with stands, diffusers, and barn doors for each light so you can control the direction of light and to support it properly. They also come with a carrying case, which is a nice addition. As with other LED panels, having many LEDs can potentially cause many shadows to show up when you light a subject. In this case, we have 660 LEDs, but the included diffuser smooths out those shadows. In this example, we have the diffuser off and the barn door sticking out, casting multiple shadows on the wall. Now, when I add the diffuser back in, the shadows are smoothed out and you don't have multiple shadows being casted. Now, I'm not sure how this will look like on YouTube because of the bitrate settings, but seeing this in person, I can tell you that the shadow is smooth. As I indicated before, the light stands do come with the lights and they're generally pretty stable. You can nudge them a little bit and they won't fall over, but of course, if you use any major force, then the lights will fall. And that concludes the pros for these lights. Now on to the cons. First, when you dim to 1%, measuring the light with my camera with aperture priority mode and looking at the shutter speed, 1% actually is about 13 to 16% of the maximum brightness. It doesn't go anything lower than that other than 0%, which turns off the light. If you want to apply just a little bit of light in a dark environment, for example, this actually might be too much light in some scenarios. The stands do bend slightly if you raise them high, but I don't see this causing any problems as of yet. Now, although a carrying case is provided, the tripod boxes are flimsy cardboard and probably won't really last long, but overall, things do fit snugly in the case. Now, I do know this is a little bit nitpicking, but I wish the power cord that was supplied was a little bit longer, maybe even double the length to reduce the amount of extension cords that I need, but this is not a major problem. And then finally, last but not least, and this is probably the thing that impacts me the most, is that one of the knobs started to malfunction in one of the lights. So in the left knob of one of the lights, if I twist it, it does not respond. If I click and hold, it does control the unit, so I probably have to do that or control the lights through Bluetooth via the app. I found out that there is a 2-year warranty for the product if you were to buy directly from Neewer's site. However, I bought this from Amazon like I do with a lot of my other stuff, so unfortunately, the warranty did expire. The special effects mode. Because I don't use this mode often or barely at all, I'll exclude this from my scoring, but I'll talk a little bit more about it here. After you download the mobile app and set it up by allowing the permissions needed to communicate with Bluetooth, it's generally pretty easy to use. You can configure the color of your lights pretty much the same way as you do with the rear physical control panel. In my opinion, the way they designed the app here is a little bit less intuitive. You can select the category of the effect first, which is the bottom row, and then after that, you can select the variance of the effect with A, B, and C that's above that row. In my mind, I think they had that flipped backwards on the UI. Whoever designed it, I think should have had the category of the special effects first, and then you select the variant of that next, using those A, B, and C buttons. In addition to controlling lights individually with the app, you can use the same app to group lights together and deploy the same settings over multiple lights all in one step. This will help cut down some of the setup time if you plan to put the same setting on each light. While you can temporarily override the setting on an individual light after a group setting has been applied, any additional changes to the group setting on the app will change all the settings on that individual light to match the group setting. For security, I did see some sort of reference for a password in the user manual, but I could not find that in the app. Maybe it's something that I've missed, but it would be nice to have a control to stop other random people from connecting to my lights via Bluetooth during a shoot. Not that it has happened before, but you never know, knock on wood. If you have a Bluetooth button that specifically initiates the Bluetooth pairing, at least that gives you a layer of protection against someone who either inadvertently connects to your lights over Bluetooth or someone that's more malicious and are just trying to change your settings behind your back. Now we get to the point where we start scoring these lights. I came up with these 5 categories for my rubric: ease of use, build quality, features, light quality, and value. Starting with ease of use, generally it's pretty easy to learn once you figure out the physical buttons and knobs that are on the back. You also have the Bluetooth app, which is generally intuitive other than the part that I explained, so I'll give this a 4 out of 5 stars for ease of use. Build quality. Overall, this is mostly a solid product. It's nice to have a carrying case, although I wish it was a little bit more padded, which I think I haven't mentioned before, but the padding was a little bit thin. The light stands do bend slightly depending on the height, but again, that hasn't caused any problems for me as of yet. I am a bit disappointed on how fast the one knob malfunctioned, considering that because this is a studio, sometimes I leave the settings as is from one video to another and I don't even make an adjustment to the colors. So it's not like the knob is used that frequently. Hopefully this is a one-off and will not reflect the overall build quality, but for this, I'll have to give it a 3 out of 5 stars. Features. For my videos, I generally need one color per light and have it consistent, nice and simple, so the features are generally sufficient for me. In my opinion, the biggest feature that it lacks is being able to dim down the light output to a quote-unquote true 1% instead of having a relatively high light output for that 1%. But of course, there are workarounds for this. The diffuser, barn doors, and light stands are nice if you're looking for a complete package in case you don't currently have a lighting setup for your studio. Also, having the option to use AC power or Sony NPF batteries is a very nice touch. I'll give this 4 out of 5 stars. Light quality. I have no issues with the color. There are products out there that have higher CRI ratings, but for me, this is good enough for my YouTube channel. And also, as I said before, I have no problems with the shadows being a light panel because a diffuser is included. For the light quality score, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5 stars. Value. As with a lot of products, you generally get what you pay for. The value here is kind of hard to define because everyone's requirements might be different. If you look at lighting in general, you'll see stuff from, let's say, $20 to stuff that costs as much as a car. While this is not pocket change, I do hope to use these lights for many years to come. I think this will be a quote-unquote good value if it will last. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5 stars. Totaling up the scores and averaging, the Neewer RGB660 lights get an overall score of 4 out of 5 stars. I generally really like these lights, except for the knob malfunction that we talked about a couple times here that got me a little bit worried, but I might even try to see if I can fix this myself, and depending on how that goes, maybe that could be a future YouTube video.
That wraps up today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you in the next video.